Doctor Who's 60th anniversary specials conclude in the Giggle, where the Doctor reunites with the Toymaker who twists the Doctor's life into a game for the Toymaker's own amusement. Also, spoiler warning for this entire story. There is so much going on within this episode, and it's hard to figure out where to start. So, first things first, I want to talk about Neil Patrick Harris's portrayal of the Toymaker. It cannot be overstated just how much I adored this portrayal. I think Harris walks that perfect line of somebody who is a legitimate threat and somebody who is just incredibly entertaining to watch on screen. The Toymaker is so theatrical in this, and in his performance, Harris delivers in every respect that he should, completely commanding the screen and arresting my attention. He is perfect for this show and for this episode, balancing the absurdity and the drama oh so well. And it's not just that he's big and has such a large presence, but I really like the angle that RTD takes in here. He's here to play his games and have fun, and that's the extent to which humanity and Earth matter to him. Good and bad are not things he concerns himself with. It's all about the game and having fun. He's not a complicated villain with some dark backstory. There's a simplicity to him, and within that simplicity, there is so much room for him to do so many different things. I mean, the Toymaker is a godlike being with seemingly unlimited power, so story-wise, there are so many ways that he can play with and manipulate the Doctor, and that is done to great effect within here. I also do like when the modern show brings back a villain from a goofier Classic Who episode with the tone of, "This is the most dangerous foe the Doctor has ever encountered." Great stuff, no notes. Now, there is a lot going on within this story. I mean, it's about an hour long. You've got this returning villain, you've got a new Doctor reintroduced, an old Doctor departing, Kate's back again, Mel is back. RTD tries to incorporate some level of social commentary in here, which doesn't have much room to breathe or be explored. It's pretty packed, in places a little too packed. However, for what the story does need to do and what it does need to focus on, I think it is successful. The Toymaker gets a lot of screen time, and rightly so, because he should feel like a threat and he should feel central to this story, and he is. And a lot of this story as a special is a reflection on Doctor Who over the past 60 years, but especially the Doctor Who of the modern era. So I do want to devote some time to discussing that and how this all functions as an examination of the Doctor's life and where he is now. When compared to the classic series of the show, the modern era has taken a lot of time exploring the trauma of the Doctor, and the Doctor as a main character, something that simply wasn't as big of a focus in the original show, which is not to say that nothing was done with it, but it's more of a focus in the modern iteration of the show. So Doctor Who as we know it now is a lot more about that character, and a lot of that is centered around tragedy and trauma. From Series 1, where we find out that the Doctor is the last of his people, to now, there have constantly been tragic, awful things happening to and around the Doctor, moving from place to place. People die around him, loved ones, the people that matter to him most in the universe are taken from him, and he has no choice but to push forward and keep going. In a very interesting way, Russell T Davies takes the entirety of the modern show and uses these specials, this one in particular, as an examination of the Doctor as a character, and what it does to a person to just not stop in the face of unbearable pain. The Doctor of the modern show has been the lonely, tortured god, and in The Giggle, the show asks a question rarely done before. What if the Doctor was happy? This character has spent so much time unable to be happy. I mean, that almost feels like a part of the thesis statement for the show. When you live a life as tragic as the Doctor, one can't just be happy. There is so much pain that comes with that. So when talking about the 14th Doctor as a character, and the point of this character, I do appreciate that there is one. There is a reason for this Doctor existing. It's not just David Tennant back in the show, it's an examination of the show and this character. I really liked that. It's not perfect, there are aspects to it which don't fully land, but in large part, I was surprised that when all was said and done with Tennant's 14, I was so incredibly sold on this character and the use of him. Again, so much to discuss about this story, but this does kind of feel like the most important part, at least for me. I mean, naturally, when you're dealing with such a long-running show made by so many people, there are going to be points where it is hard to fully make sense of all these different artistic visions, because there's just so many viewpoints and contradictions. Having said that, I do really like seeing where 14 ends up at the end of this story, with an opportunity to heal, to just be happy, and to not have to constantly be running around. He still takes the occasional trip here and there, how could he not? but he has a family to spend time with and enjoy their company and to live with day after day. I found this to be a really great place to leave off this incarnation of the Doctor. He gets to go on living his life and bettering himself while the next incarnation saves the universe, so he doesn't ever have to worry about it. Letting the Doctor, after so much emotional torture throughout the entirety of the modern show, get this opportunity to be genuinely happy. Damn, I was honestly shocked by how sold I was on this as an ending for this incarnation of the character, and how much that worked on me. I expected Russell would attempt some kind of a happy ending, at least for Donna, but I wasn't expecting this exactly, and I'm so surprised by how much I bought it. I mean, if you watched my last review, you'll know that I was adamant there needed to be consequences for bringing Donna back so easily with no genuine explanation or sacrifice to fix her. I said in no uncertain terms that she should die, so the fact that I watched this episode where she gets to live on and have a happy life with the Doctor, and I'm coming out of it quite satisfied with where RTD has chosen to leave off these characters, I'm shocked. It really worked. And don't get me wrong, I still think the way he brought back Donna and fixed her was incredibly cheap, hence why this ending isn't quite as impactful as it really should be, even though it did work for me a lot. So I'm not fully sold on the journey because I think RTD dropped the ball in regard to Donna's return, but as a commentary on the Doctor and Doctor Who of the modern era, and as a place to leave off these characters, yeah, I really dug it, and was surprised by the emotional impact of the Doctor just being happy. And sure, while watching this, I can't help but think of the other times during the modern era where the Doctor has had a chance to stop and catch their breath, or find some level of happiness. I mean, it's hard to not think of the 24 years spent with River Song on Darillium. To me, that is such a bittersweet and beautiful ending for the husbands of River Song, and for that character, and it is a comparable amount of time to how much longer Donna is going to live. I mean, she is not immortal. She'll be about 80 by then. So there's a couple of levels on which, just thinking about the show in its entirety, I don't know that I can fully get on board with this moment. However, it's hard to blame RTD for that. I mean, I think for how many different visions there are in this show, as I noted, and how many different perspectives there are, he did a good job of making some sense of it, and tying some kind of a bow on what the show has done up to this point. It's not perfect, but when trying to make sense of all that stuff, it never really could be. But it does set the stage quite nicely for a fresh era of the show and a fresh Doctor, who is arriving to us in a far different place than the one we currently have. And this leads me to talking about the bi-regeneration. I think initially watching it, I was like, oh my god, what is going on? Like, what are we doing here? Do I like this? Does this make sense? What is happening? And although it is underexplained within the episode itself, there is enough going on to be able to piece it together in a way that I can accept and honestly think works really well for the show and what it is doing. Plus, you don't want it to be over-explained, then it becomes lore crap that nobody really cares about and is honestly just a waste of time in what is really a story. But also, yes, we do need enough explanation to know what's going on, or at least have some idea. And I think we have a pretty good idea, even though there is certainly room for interpretation. I mean, it is stated by our new Doctor, Shutigawa, more on him later by the way, that he is better because Tennant's 14th Doctor gets better. So this timey-wimey weirdness of bi-regeneration is just making things happen a little bit differently. 14 will become 15 at some point in the future after having had time to heal. How exactly that happens, what it looks like, whether 15 currently remembers everything that has happened with 14, who knows? It's not made clear within this episode because the concept is largely brushed past to just get these characters where they need to be, which I'm okay with. I mean, it's not the first time we've seen something weird happen with regeneration or something new that hasn't been done before. We've seen it many times. So is this bi-regeneration related to being killed by the Toymaker? Is it related to the superstition of the salt at the edge of the universe? Could it have to do with the Timeless Child in some way, maybe with the Doctor's unknown origin? The answer is we don't have an answer, and odds are we never will get one. That is going to upset some fans. But for my money, it is something new that we haven't seen before, used in a way that is exciting, intriguing, and allows the Doctor to both have a happy ending and move forward in a way that I found incredibly exciting. And that's something that has not been done before, certainly not in this way. Do I want to see it again? Absolutely not. But for the 60th anniversary, for what this story is doing, I think it was a great choice and works very well. And speaking of the anniversary, what a way to end it. We get an introduction to our brand new 15th Doctor. This is such an exciting introduction because we see so much more of him than we have ever seen of a new Doctor at the end of our Regeneration episode. I feel like I got a legitimate taste for what to expect from him in the future, and I can't wait to get more. It's really exciting that Davies is okay with playing around with the format in that way, and for this special in particular, I think it works very well. It's just a taste of what's to come, but it is a very fun taste, and Gatwa does make a splash right out of the gate. I think I'll like him even more once I get to see how he works across an entire episode. I mean, this is such a concentrated taste of the character that it's hard to fully judge, as fun as he is. But man, seeing him in his TARDIS at the end of this episode, starting off on a brand new series of adventures, I seriously cannot wait for this whole new era of the show. It's going to be such a ride. So there's a lot of great stuff within here, stuff that I had an absolute blast with. The Toymaker as a villain, the characterization of the Doctor, the introduction of the new Doctor. Even though there is so much packed within here, it gets the stuff right that it really needs to. I think it does make efforts to have some sort of a political commentary, but honestly, that stuff is never given room to breathe like it needs to, and the efforts that Davies does make with it are so painfully unsubtle and uninteresting that it feels totally hollow. I mean, I liked seeing Trinity Wells back, but Russell, you're really not saying anything new or interesting at all with this moment. And that's true of most of the efforts of political commentary throughout here. It's not that he's wrong in his political commentary, but when it's not insightful, when it's not doing anything interesting at all within the narrative, then it feels tacked on and not important to what's going on here. So I think that he doesn't really find the right balance of incorporating that stuff in any kind of a natural way, which, is a bit of a shame, though of course it doesn't ruin the story. It's just an aspect to it that could have been handled stronger. With regard to Kate, she is a character I have never found all that interesting, and once again, she does not get a whole lot to do in here. I mean, when she runs up to hug the Doctor, it's sort of a hard moment to buy based upon what I've seen from this character up to this point. She's fine within here and serves her purpose, mercifully not being given too much screen time or too much focus because the show often falls a little flat when it tries to do that, although having said that, I wouldn't mind seeing Davies take on the character were he to try exploring her a little more, considering that she is, to me at least, one of the least interesting characters that the show can't seem to let go of. Having said that, I enjoyed the limited but entertaining presence of Shirley in here. Somehow I didn't find time to talk about her in my review of the Star Beast, but she is good in this episode and has a unique rapport with the Doctor. Her role is minimal, but good nonetheless. If you told Doctor Who fans from the 1980s that in the year 2023 there would be a 60th anniversary special which prominently featured the return of Mel, I cannot even begin to imagine what they'd think, aside from just, not believing you. But it has been a surprisingly big decade for Mel, with her appearance in the box set trailer, her brief cameo last year, and now an actual role where she reunites with the Doctor. I love that Davies is able to take a character that was given next to nothing in the original show, and in just a couple of minutes of screen time, give her something genuinely compelling and make you want to see more of her. I really liked the presence that Bonnie Langford brought to the screen, and I certainly look forward to seeing more from her in the future. I've talked a lot about some of the big concepts of this story, but I do want to emphasize that as a whole, it was just really strong. It's legitimately captivating from the start, with an opening scene wherein Neil Patrick Harris commands the screen. There's an interesting buildup of the Doctor and us figuring out what's going on, which culminates in meeting the Toymaker and getting caught up in some quite engaging games, which provide for good character moments and creepy scenes. That moment where Donna is being creepily sung to by that little doll is very good. If I had seen that as a child, it likely would have haunted my dreams. I love when something creepy is effective in just how simple it is. A widowed doll. Great stuff. And of course, the recap of all of the companions that have died is such a great series of moments, with the Doctor being confronted by the Toymaker with where all of his actions have left the people he cares about. And Tennant's performance is phenomenal, selling the weight of somebody who still isn't okay after all of that devastation. And there's just so many effective moments within here that comprise this larger whole, and it just works extremely well. Overall, I had a great time with The Giggle, and found it to be largely an incredibly satisfying celebration of the show and reflection on where the character of the Doctor has been taken over the course of the modern era. Neil Patrick Harris fully delivers as one of the most memorable villains to appear in the modern show, Tennant is as great as he has ever been, and Davies delivers a story that feels so fresh and so exciting. I had a great time with this episode, and I'm going to give The Giggle a rating of 9 out of 10. And that brings me to the end of this review. Feel free to share any thoughts that you have down below if you so wish. I hope to see you around soon for a discussion of the Church on Ruby Road before long, as well as some classic reviews, but if not, that is just fine, so long as you know that I appreciate your time here today. And with all of that said, thank you very much for watching, and take care.